uh, artificial intelligence, Web3 are getting involved, and how does it impact our lives? So today afternoon, we are very honored to have Mr. Jaspreet with us to share his thoughts on the same. Mr. Jaspreet is a leading expert on digital transformation, blockchain, is a world-renowned author on Tech Whisperer, and also founder of the company worth $20 billion. And without much ado, I'll just invite him onto the stage for his presentation and share his thoughts, sir. Lovely. Thank you very much. What I'll do is I'll just share this screen for the presentation so that.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, this one. Yeah. This one. I wanted to figure out. Actually, I was just going to ask, where is the YouTube part of the? So it's here. Okay. Okay. So you can move there. There. Okay. I usually like to be on the same. Yeah, but you know what will happen is if I'm here, you can see it now, right? This is good. I do have the habit of moving around a bit, so forgive me for that. Are we good? Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for taking time off the very important work that you do to be here to listen to me. Thank you, Sangeeta, for having me here. It's an honor. I do many of these conversations. I do many of these talks, but I'm a little wary and very humbled this time because I'm talking to people who I have almost worshipped most of the time. You know, doctors, surgeons, medical professionals, and it's a singular honor for me to actually have you listening to me and me talking to you. What we will do is, the way I like to do these things is, we probably have an hour and a half or an hour in total, including some conversation. So with your permission, I would like to make this more of a conversation than a talk. So not one way, but both ways. And so I might ask you some things in between and take your opinions. Anytime you have something which you want to just clarify, etc., just raise your hand, comment. Before we begin, just to quickly introduce myself beyond what Saurabh said. So I kind of operate out of Cambridge in the UK and also Gurgaon in India. I run a small digital transformation advisory consulting firm out of the UK. I teach for Harvard Business, for Duke School in the US, Singularity University, for some of you might have heard of it, in the Valley. And I've written a couple of books. I'm also, in my late middle age or old age, a student again. I'm doing my second master's in Cambridge University in artificial intelligence and ethics. The second part of which would be very familiar to most of you. And very frankly, the way ethics has been an ingrained part of medical education, we're trying to see how that actually comes into engineering or digital education like artificial intelligence, etc. So those are the different things that I'm doing, and that's very quickly about myself. I worked with Microsoft for many years. I was with the Mahindra Group as the Group Chief Digital Officer. I was with the Tata Group in my corporate career, which was for about 20-25 years, a little while back. So now that we are here today, what are you expecting from this? What is your expectation? What are we going to talk about? What would you like to hear? Let me just start with asking you that. Anyone? You're smiling.
Like you mentioned on your slide.
Please continue sitting, no worries.
Like you mentioned in your slide, I want to know how the future of work will be.
Lovely. You're one of the people where there is absolutely no threat to your future of work, but still. Anything else? Any other expectations from my talk, from the conversation we'll have? Yes, sir.
Basically, what I'm a surgeon, what I'm looking at is there's a lot of variation in the diagnosis, management, reproducibility, all these things among people. today we are depending upon a senior, junior, middle level, and the same problem is being treated by different people in different ways. What I'm looking at is artificial intelligence will help us that a beginner will almost reach the level of senior, at least thinking process.
Lovely.
Imagine like surgery. For example, as I say, give a brain Apollo hospital, cardiac surgery ICU, to give a reasonable care. Whereas the periphery, they will not be able to give the care. With the presence of artificial intelligence, anywhere, any patient should be able to get a reasonable level of care with the genome explantation. That is what I am doing.
Super. One last.
Hi, Jaspreet.
Yes, it's good to hear from you.
I'm Harshad Reddy connecting via Zoom.
Hi, Arshad.
One of my expectations from this session would be, if you could throw some light around the ethics around AI. I know you're studying that now. We're in a business, or rather we're in a service where ethics is paramount, and would love to learn more around that.
Lovely. We'll do that. I think someone was just about to speak, so maybe I'll do that and then we'll continue. Please, sir. Yeah.
We have a lot of data when we use it appropriately. We are still limited by human assimilation of knowledge.
Yeah.
So probably we were having a better way of data mining so that we can come up with some algorithms and identify patients.
Okay, lovely. So I hope I'm able to satisfy a small percentage of everything that you're looking for. Look, what we are trying to do, can I have the clicker, please? Sorry. What I'm trying to do today, I work in a lot of different technologies. I work across AI, blockchain, I work across data, analytics, quantum computing. There's a bunch of technologies. And all of these technologies, there is so much to speak about them. It's almost like talking about life in that sense. And what we're going to do in 45 minutes is possibly, if I may say so, it's analogous to talking about doing an entire medical education for 5 or 7 years in 45 minutes. So what I will do today is literally, it's like a random walk through some technologies, okay, which we will just have a high level view of. Some of it you might already know, some of it might be new to you. And then, you're the experts in your field, and hopefully you'll start connecting some dots. You'll hopefully gain some knowledge and you'll start connecting some dots. If we have some time now, or I'm very happy to do that later, we can perhaps go deeper into some of these issues that you spoke about, and therefore what can help in designing the right algorithms, etc. I'll definitely touch upon algorithms, I'll touch upon ethics, etc. Out of all the technologies that there are hundreds of technologies out there. What I thought we will focus on today is what is broadly called Web3, words which you might have heard of. And yes, on artificial intelligence. And towards the end, we're going to talk a little about why do we even talk about these technologies? So how do we use these technologies for doing some of the things that you said, or digital transformation, some use cases? I also do want to confess to you, as I did to Sangeeta, that I'm not a healthcare expert. I've never worked in healthcare. I worked in a bunch of industries, but not here. And so, in that sense, it might be deficient in answering some of your things, the questions that you have, but hopefully we will get some answers. So, and I also hope you'll have some fun as we go through this. This is one of my favorite tweets, that many of the technologies today are like, in the corporate world, are the same as Punjabi songs. We know some key few words, but we dance to its tunes as if we know the entire lyrics. Everyone knows crypto, right? Everyone knows Web3. Okay, everyone knows what NFTs are. And we perhaps have a shallow knowledge, and we kind of, so hopefully we'll go a little deeper than just the first sentence of the Punjabi song to the next second or third sentence, but we'll probably stop there. For the entire song, we will need much more time. So this is a random walk. We'll start with Web3. We'll come to a large enabler of Web3, which is blockchain. And then we'll talk about these new hype words over the last couple of years, NFTs, Metaverse, something which is very interesting called the passion economy or the creative economy. We'll move to AI. And then if we have time, and I'm saying then if we have time, we'll move to the last part, which is the actual application of some of these things as to what can we do with some of these things. So the first 3-4 things, just think of it as the first 2 lines of that Punjabi song that I told you about. So Web3. Again, let me throw it back at you. Does anyone know, and this is to the YouTube audience also, Zoom audience also. Any volunteers who wants to tell me what Web3 is? How many of you have heard of Web3? Heard the words Web3? Okay, 2 or 3. So I'm not going to ask my next question then. What is Web3? So look, one of the big, life-shaping technology work or technology developments that are happening are what are called in Web3 or sometimes called Web 3.0. Now, what is Web 3? If there's a Web 3, there should be a Web 1 and there should be a Web 2. Web 1 was when, if you go back, was when there were the days of Yahoo and MSN, when you could only read. So someone else wrote stuff like a magazine and you could just read it. And so Web 1 really was the read web. It was basic HTML, email. The business model of Web 1 was primarily advertising, the same way as it's there for newspapers and magazines today. Then came Web 2. And Web 2 moved from read to read and write. So if you think of Twitter or you think of Facebook, not only can you read stuff, but you can write back. Okay, and that read and write thing became what was called Web 2, but it went just much beyond that. The business model of Web 2 was totally different. It basically meant that we used to get everything free, but then we would be sold as data. And all the massive tech companies basically sell our intentions and our likes and that really is what is called Web 2, a different set of technologies which enabled it. We are today at the cusp of what is called Web 3. And Web 3 has moved from read to read and write to read, write, and own. So what that means is that unlike Web 2, where our data is actually owned by someone else, and the platform is actually owned by these large, massive companies, the names which you know. In Web 3 world, you will, as users, own your data and own parts of the web through currency, which sometimes we refer to as cryptocurrency. It's a very fundamental shift. And the reason it's a fundamental shift is that it's not only about Web 1, Web 2, Web 3. As this models change from 1, 2 to 3, business models of entire industries will change. So if you think of entertainment, for example, entertainment in Web 1 world was, someone put a video and you watched it. Entertainment in Web 2 was someone put a video, you also put a video, and there was advertising and you watched it free. Web 3, where will be about you creating videos, paying through it through micropayments, owning parts of the video, and the entire entertainment and pretty much almost every industry is going to change as it moves from Web 2 to Web 3. And so Web 3, in many ways, is a new business model. If you remember, during your Web 1 time, you used to have a username and password. Web 2 was about sign in with Google, sign in with Facebook, sign in with Twitter. Web 3 is going to be about linking your wallet. And the wallets that I refer to are actually crypto wallets, which some of or most of us don't get into, but pretty much all of our kids are into. All of them own something called MetaMask, okay, or have Coinbase wallets. And actually that is going to become the entry point into this new web. So what is this new web? Web 3 is just not one thing. Web 3 is many things. And I've written these many things here. It's about the blockchain. It's about what is called the metaverse. It's about NFTs. It's about creator economy. It is about being open, trustless, decentralized. It's about this thing called DAOs, or distributed autonomous organizations, which could be very interesting again from a healthcare or a hospital scenario. And I'm going to come to that. And so, but first within this, and therefore the second part of my random road, let's talk about the first bit of it, which is blockchain, so that I kind of put these pieces together and then you understand what Web 3 is. How many of you have heard about blockchain? How many can tell me what a blockchain is, since there were more people who raised hands this time? Who can tell me what a blockchain is? And is a mining distributed ledger? Someone said something else. And, you know, it's fine, because you see, unlike other technologies, the word itself doesn't explain what the technology is. So artificial intelligence, simple. If you know English, you know what it means. Virtual reality, Internet of Things, blockchain doesn't mean anything. And that's why it becomes a little difficult for us. I've been working on blockchain for 5 years now, maybe more. And I still think I know only about 50% of what it actually means. And I do like full day sessions to try explain blockchain to people. So I can assure you that I would not be able to explain that to you right now. But as Sangeeta said, actually a blockchain is a distributed ledger. So what that really means at very high level is that instead of different parties which are transacting with each other, having a ledger of their own and creating inefficiencies, there's a single universal ledger in the cloud, which everyone owns. And a transaction only happens if all the parties say yes to it or authenticate it through what is called a consensus mechanism. Difficult to understand, but super important. And blockchains are kind of are still new, but probably will run a lot of the world going forward. There's a simpler way I like to explain blockchain. And sometimes I tell people that what blockchain is that blockchain is really a kiddie party. Now tell me how many people know what a kiddie party is? You know, in this question, half of them don't raise their hands because they're embarrassed. So, how many don't know what a kiddie party is? Everyone knows. Oh, you don't know. Okay, fine. So for your sake, sir, then. Okay. Well, so kiddie party is where a bunch of people, usually women, come together, have tea, snacks, gossip, have fun. Important part is that each one of them brings a sum of money. So if there are 10 women, each brings 1,000 rupees, 10,000 rupees. This 10,000 rupees is what is called the kitty. That's why it's called a kitty party. There's no other reason. And they put this 10,000 rupees on the table. And at the end of the party, there's a lucky draw. And one woman wins. That woman is not allowed to participate the next time, because she's won. And so pretty much like a blockchain, where each block in the chain is actually linked to the last block, what is called immutably linked. A kitty party, every party is linked to the last party. This is very important, because in a blockchain, and why it's so important is that to make any change happen, you have to change the entire chain. And so it's very difficult to hack. It's super secure. And that's why it's probably the best technology for electronic health records. And a bunch of people are, because it's authentic, it cannot be hacked, it is user-owned and administered, and so many people are trying to work on that. Now, in this kitty party, when women put this 10,000 rupees on the table, tell me, who do they trust with the money? 10,000, you've put 10,000. Who do they trust? That money won't be taken away. They trust each other. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the most important part. A kitty party is about decentralized trust. We, since we were born, have grown up in the era of centralized trust. We trust the Reserve Bank, we trust a bank, we trust our organization, but trusting each other. And so they know that to defraud or to steal that 10,000 rupees away, every one of those 10 women will have to be hacked. And that's why these systems are very secure. And this concept of decentralized trust is the heart of blockchain. And so if there's one thing you need to remember about blockchain, is decentralized trust. And this gives rise to multiple use cases, which we won't have the time to go through. I have a few written in your field as we go forward towards the end, but electronic health records is a big one. Everyone has been trying to solve it, so far not solved, but hopefully it will as we go forward. It's a big deal because people say that 10% of the global GDP will be on blockchain by the year 2030. 10% of the global GDP, which also is a big deal. Why I like blockchain is frankly because of the philosophy. And when I'm going to be talking today, you'll hear very less about the technology, frankly. You'll hear about what it is and what it can do and the philosophy behind it. The internet solved many problems for us when it came many years back, 30 years back, World Wide Web. It solved our communication problem with email, WhatsApp. It solved our distribution problem with video distribution, e-commerce. It solved our communication problem. So I said that with WhatsApp, etc. It solved our information problem with search, Google, Wikipedia. There were two problems that the internet was supposed to solve, which it did not solve. One was the trust problem. None of us trusts the internet. And the second is the disintermediation problem. The internet was supposed to make it a level playing field, everyone equal. Instead, it created far more powerful intermediaries than had ever existed on this earth. Amazon, Google, Facebook. The reason about the excitement about blockchain is that it promises to solve these two problems of disintermediation and trust. And so what I would ask you to do in blockchain is just know about it, learn more about it. It's not a technology which is happening here and now in many things. In a few things it is, but it's coming. And when it comes, it's going to change the world in many ways, including making it more and more decentralized. Crypto is nothing but decentralized money. For all its bad things that are happening with it, basically it's decentralized money born in 2008 when the Lehman crisis happened, saying that, look, we can't trust the banks anymore, so let's trust each other. And this has severe implications for many things, including the future of work. New organizations will be created on what is called the blockchain. And that organization is actually called a DAO, or a digital autonomous organization, where there's no CEO, where policies are run by code, etc. And there's some very interesting conceptually possibilities of healthcare DAOs. And some of those are happening in some of the Scandinavian countries, etc., especially nursing. And again, we don't have too much time to talk about that today, but there is. Let's move to the other interesting bits quickly. NFT. Who's the NFT expert queen here? Tokens. वो ठीक है, आगे. Metaverse. You own two. That's like one more than I do. Metaverse. Tell me. But why have that? So you either go to Mars if you're a billionaire, okay, or you go to the metaverse if you're a billionaire. Okay, so anyway, so no good. That's what it is. It's literally like an alternative world, and it's very interesting. Again, we won't get into the psychology or the philosophy of it. Maybe we will if we have the time. But let me just go quickly into NFTs, and you're right, non-fungible tokens. Again, a difficult one to explain in short time, but think about NFTs as a way to monetize your talent on the web. So if you were an artist, you could paint, you could go to, and if you were a good painter, you would go and hopefully an art gallery will buy it, or take it and someone will buy it. There are only so many few art galleries. Art gallery owners like some artists, they don't like some other artists. You're a new person. NFTs as a concept, which is what's called a non-fungible token. Basically, you can create that art for the web. And now there are marketplaces where people will buy it if they like it. Remember, art is not art only. We saw one outside. Art is a story. The Mona Lisa is not the best painting ever made. It's not, right? There's so many better paintings. But why does it sell for whatever, $20 billion or $5 billion? Because there's stories created, beautiful, mysterious smile, Leonardo da Vinci doing this, doing that. And so the same way you can actually, the way you sell art, and if you have one Mona Lisa, you can create 50,000 postcards of the Mona Lisa. So there's nothing original about it. It's not that. NFTs are art created for the internet, or for what is called the new web, Web3, where you can actually monetize your talent on using newer avenues which were not available to you. The good thing about NFTs is that its ownership is fixed. That's why they're called non-fungible. Its ownership always remains, and the artist is supreme. Remember, in Web3, the user is the king, as I said, in blockchain, etc. The user is the king in Web3. Here also, the artist is the king. And so if I sell an NFT to Sangeeta, if I con her into buying one for 100 rupees, I as an artist will get, say, 80 rupees. She then cons Saurabh, into buying it for 500 rupees. I as an artist will still get 80 rupees. You sell, or whatever rupees, you sell it elsewhere. I as an artist, through the entire life of the NFT, will continue to earn money, unlike in the real world, where it happens only once. And that's what is creating this absolutely new market for, and it's not only art, it could be music, it could be multiple other things. And what this is giving rise to is something called the creator economy, or the passion economy. It basically means, and most of your children, we were growing up, we were like, we want to join this, or we want to join that, or we want to join this company, or whatever. So far, only collectives, organizations were monetizable. Now, with Web3, individuality can be monetized. So if you are talented, you can actually earn money by doing that, and on the web. And this gig work, the gig economy, which the whole Zomato and Swiggy, etc., or Uber, where you could earn money just by driving a car, is the first symptom of that. But this is a massive coming in. This, by the way, is the most expensive, one of the most expensive NFTs. Do you recognize this? This is by an Indian guy, by the way. It's called Beeple. An Indian guy bought it. It's called Beeple. It sold for $69 million. There's actually 1,000 different pixels. Each pixel represents a story. So at the end of it, it's a story, but it's a story on the web. It actually sold for $69 million. So it's not a small thing. There are things happening and so our children, as they grow up, will have so many more ways to work, than what was there right now. And soon you'll start hearing words saying, I'm on chain, you're off chain, because all of these are actually built on the blockchain. These set of NFTs are what are called, does anyone know this NFT? You know this. What is it? Yeah, so these are new words. There's something called the Bored Ape Yacht Club. Each of these sells for about $3 to $4 million, approximately. And whoever owns it puts it as their new status symbol. So people don't put like vacation photos or, photos of their gold medals or whatever. So, sometimes we think it's weird. When Web 2 was happening, most of the Web 1 people thought it was weird, but all this is actually really happening. And that brings me to the next part, which is the Metaverse, the alternative universe, which Facebook wants to create and is so serious about it that they've changed the name of their company to Meta. And one of you did answer that, that the Metaverse is like an alternative reality. Since we were born, ladies and gentlemen, you're doctors, you might know this from a psychology standpoint, human beings have always created stories. They've always created alternative layers to reality. The primary difference between mammals and humans is that mammals live in the real reality. Human beings create layers of imagination and stories above the real reality. So we live in two worlds. We live in the real world and we live in an imaginary world. And the Metaverse is nothing but the imaginary world given form by these new technologies which are coming in. So Metaverse is a collective virtual space created by the convergence of virtually enhanced physical reality, and physically persistent virtual spaces. So AR and VR, augmented reality, virtual reality, those are and Metaverse itself has a lot of, so think of that, think of the real world, which is where we are living in. Your kids, by the way, have a name for it. And when they get off their computers, they tell their friends that I'm going to IRL. You know what is IRL? In real life. There are two words there. Okay. Some of you might have been told that I want to buy a t-shirt. But you know what? You're never going to wear that t-shirt. You know that. Because that t-shirt can only be worn by your avatar in the Metaverse. And so the Metaverse is about gaming. The Metaverse is about these video avatars. It's about these virtual reality headsets. It's about cryptos, NFTs. Pretty much like the computer was and this is very important, the computer was the user interface for Web 1. And the mobile phone was the UI or the user interface for Web 2. As we get into Web 3, the user interface of that will be the Metaverse. Surrounded. The PC we could still keep at a distance. The phone, unfortunately, came this close to us. And then now we're going to go into it. And so younger people here and the children are actually going to grow up in a world which is going to be very different for what it is. And it's coming again, it's big. And land is being bought, as he said, hotels are being built, banks are being built. JP Morgan has a bank in the Metaverse where Jamie Dimon, the CEO, personally welcomes everyone who comes in. And who knows, so would hospitals, if they don't already exist. How will you give that care? It's one step ahead from telemedicine. Okay, just where you're actually virtually sitting in one place, and as we, with multiple sensors and devices. So there's already stuff happening there. I want to talk about the last bit in the Metaverse, and which I find the best description, which will make you understand, made me understand what the Metaverse is. And it's a particular tweet which was put in by a guy called Shan Puri. And it's so good that I'm going to read all of it. Okay, so what he says is that everyone is wrong. Most people think that the Metaverse is a virtual place, a virtual world, like you were talking about, like I was thinking, like Minecraft, Roblox, these are all games, or like Zuckerberg showed in his Facebook demo. But what if the Metaverse is not a place? It's not a place, he says, it's a time. It's a moment in time. Like in the AI world, artificial intelligence world, there's a moment in time called singularity, when artificial intelligence becomes greater than human intelligence. The Metaverse is the moment in time when our digital life is worth more to us than our physical life. Every important part of life, accelerated by COVID, is going digital. We can't escape that. Work has moved for many people from factories to laptops. Boardrooms have moved to Zooms. Friends have moved from neighbors to followers. Where do you find like-minded people? Not in your colony anymore. You find them in your Twitter thing or your Facebook friends or in your Reddit lists if you kind of are on Reddit. More kids play these two games, play this game Fortnite than basketball and football put together in this world. Filters, Instagram filters are the new makeup. No one cares about actual stuff anymore. See this happening, it's happening. What matters more, what you look like in real life or what you look like on Instagram? Everything goes digital, your friends, your job, your identity, and now with crypto, your assets are online also. Bored apes are the new Rolex watches. Everyone flaunts them. And so if you play this forward another 10, 20 years, we will cross into the Metaverse. The moment in time where digital matters to us far more than physical. And while it might take us 10, 20 years, kicking and screaming, we'll get dragged into it. Our children already live there. They already live there. And so what I'm talking about is not science fiction in some sense, it's today. And part of what I want to do is to just hopefully excite you or frighten you okay, with some of these today things happening. Sorry. Well, I am shit scared, by the way, of many of these, though I'm deep into it. So because I'm old, I don't understand. Okay, so, but if we, when I do quote unquote digital transformation with people, I'm like, we can't exist in a particular way, thinking that this is the way the world is forever going to be. And it will continue. And for many people, it will. But for the new generations which are coming in, and if we want to be relevant to them, all of this we will need to do all of this. In fact, I'm advising a bunch of companies to start hiring metaverse managers like they hired social media managers. And social media also we didn't believe in. What will we do here? We'll get Facebook likes. Okay, that's what we used to think. But, so the way that's coming in. So let's come to perhaps the last one, given the time, etc. available, which is the big one, the big blue whale, which is like the biggest industry, biggest technology by far out there, and which I'm deeply immersed in, and that's artificial intelligence. PwC says that blockchain will add about $3 trillion of value in the next 10 years. Artificial intelligence will add 16 trillion. That's the scale, okay, of how big AI is. And AI in many ways is like electricity. You only know it when it's not there. Otherwise, you don't think about electricity, except these days when load shedding is happening. And so AI is actually now, even today, everywhere. We think that it's a new tech. AI was born actually in 1947, the same time India was born. Okay, and one of the three fathers of AI was John McCarthy, whose quote is here. Frightening quote: branch of computer science concerned with making computers behave like humans. And obviously it's moved on, and it's been 70 years now for AI, and it's a very mature kind of a industry. As I said, lots of value added. Everyone says it's a horizontal technology. It exists across all businesses, certainly healthcare, so many use cases, and I have a few of them listed later. It's almost like, I read somewhere, it will be to healthcare what the fire was to early man. It's that critical, it's that important. It can just solve so many things, okay, which are there. And I said, look, there's so many different, I'm not going to go through all of them. But if I was to break down AI is many things. AI is not one thing. Most of the times when we say AI, we actually mean machine learning, which is one big branch of AI. There's also robotics, including in surgery. There's computer vision, which is a big autonomous vehicles is become a separate branch of AI altogether, and they can't work without computer vision, etc. And something called natural language processing, which I joke, I'm in the wrong audience here, but which I joke can help understand your prescriptions. Okay, much faster. Okay, much better than human beings can. Okay, it actually can read lots of text and analyze it, or I work very closely among many other companies, a few there, but I work very closely with a Boston-based SoftBank investee company called Findability Sciences, which is a very pure AI applications and enterprise AI company. And we work across many of these areas. These slides, why I mentioned it is these slides are taken from them, so I'm grateful to them. But AI is not just, AI is very hard work. And all of these things you were saying, okay, how can it help me, diagnose better? How can it help me? How can we have an algorithm which, helps find out something better? How can it help me tackling the volumes of work that comes with you? Each of you has to read 500,000 papers every day if you want to stay current. How can it help me, create, actually that's NLP, create, summaries of that paper personalized to me. So all of that can happen, but to make that happen, one has to follow. Unfortunately, there are no short golden keys out there. You kind of have to follow a process, and it's what we call the cup process. It's about collection of huge amounts of data. You need to collect that, which becomes a problem. As someone said, we have so much data, and it actually in large companies like Apollo, it takes 6 to 9 months just to figure out where all the data is and to bring it all together. And that is the next stage, which is unification. So you need to unify it, because there's so much duplicate data in so many different places, sitting in so many different containers, the hard grunt work, which you don't see when AI happens. The third one, which is processing, is what we think is AI. Algorithm laga diya. Okay, but before that algorithm, there's a bunch of stuff. And then the last bit is presentation so that you understand what that means. But AI is very big. There's not only the boring corporate stuff or how it can help you, which is the real stuff, but it sometimes is a lot of hard work. AI has advanced to a level where it is almost creative. It's becoming closer and closer and closer to human beings. Singularity, Peter Diamandis, you read him, you attend his course, and Ray Kurzweil, they're two futurists who started Singularity. And as I said, I will be teaching for them. It's actually built on a particular concept called singularity, which I briefly mentioned, they say that by 2039 or by 2041, artificial intelligence will cross human intelligence in terms of intelligence, in terms of capability. But even today, and yesterday at a Mint conference, I was talking about AI and creativity, and I could play all the videos before because we had the time. We realize electricity is the same with AI. But there are many things which AI can do today. I would urge you to go to YouTube next time and look at AI music. And you'll see some amazing, about 10,000 different new music which has been created by AI. AI paints today. If you've heard of a Dutch painter called Rembrandt, he was a very famous painter. The last Rembrandt ever painted was painted 600 years after he died. It was painted by an AI engine, and it fooled all the Rembrandt experts. AI can play games. If Gary Kasparov was to play with an chess AI, Gary Kasparov. So much data in GPT-3 that all of Wikipedia is 0.6% of its entire database. So you can imagine, okay, and it can do. My book, I wrote my first book. It was called The Tech Whisperer. I wanted to plug it, but unfortunately the thing is gone. Has a chapter in it, which happened for the first time in publishing world, which is a chapter on AI written by an AI. So AI can write. AI can write, it can sing, it can create art, it can play games, it can debate. And so what is happening with AI is that it's becoming closer and closer to, it'll take time, to human beings. Okay. So I wanted to show you something which just for, is this, can you guys see this? Okay. So I'm going to play something which actually happened in 2015-16. Okay, this is, any of you when you were younger played a game called Atari on the phone? You remember Atari? It looked like, oops. Where did that go? On the computer, yeah. You know, it's not playing from here. Maybe it will play from there. I just had one video just to break the monotony. Click it from where? Click it. So this is an AI being taught how to play this game. You remember this game now? Some of you might have played it. You remember this, right? This is an AI playing, and this is how it plays after 100 training sessions. It has been trained 100 times. Then after 200 sessions, this is how it plays. Okay, so it's getting slightly better, though, you know, some of these go away. Think of a human being who has played for 200 times versus an AI who has played for 200 times. And then something happens after 600 training sessions, 600 times. So suppose you have played Atari 600 times. The AI becomes actually intelligent. Before this happened, they didn't know that this could happen because we were not trained to play it this way from the edge. And so this is something which I'm showing you, which is 5 to 6 years old. Since then, almost on every yearly basis, it's become at least twice as good. Many games, chess, a game called Go, which was supposed to be impossible for a human being to, for an AI to ever win. The reigning champions have resigned, saying that Jeopardy, if you remember seeing Jeopardy on TV, saying that it's not going to. Now, why am I showing this? Yes, it's for fun and games, but also to tell you that these are extremely powerful technologies and they exist. And as Sangeeta and I were talking a little while back, many times what we do with them doesn't work, not because of the technology, they're super powerful, but because of sometimes the way we do it or whether we are ready to accept it or not accept it. But these are extremely, extremely powerful technologies. And that then obviously brings us to this cartoon, okay, which basically is that, look, if AI is going to become like a human being, then will it be ethical? Not that most of the human beings are ethical today, but still, how will it behave? Will it kill us tomorrow? There's a famous trolley problem in AI and ethics. If there's a particular train and it's going on a track and there are four young people there, and there's one old man here, and the AI is driving it, it has a choice either to go and keep going its straight way and kill all the four, or turn and kill just one. So Michael Sandel does it beautifully. He does it beautifully. Michael Sandel is a required reading for what I am doing right now. The AI problem, though, is much older. And there are fascinating parts of the AI problem. There's been deep MIT-based research. Different cultures behave differently in that. Then if the four people are young versus old, then, you know, an India-like culture will say old is better. Don't kill the old. And US-like culture will say kill the old, spare the young. What if you put a puppy? Okay, or a fat man, as Michael Sandel famously says. So now, how do we train AI to do these ethical problems? And very frankly, AI and ethics is borrowing a lot from the medical world. Most of the AI ethics problems in Oxford, in Harvard, are actually a part of the medical schools, because that's where we need to learn from. And I will not be surprised if in 5, 7, 10 years time, pretty much like you have the oath and you have ethics as a required part of your education, the same will be true for engineers who are writing these algorithms or these programs. The AI and ethics program that I am studying does not have any engineering or business school participation. It's the schools of philosophy and the schools of history. Okay, because that's where we'll have to come from. And so technology is too dangerous to be left to the technologists alone. It needs to come to people like us. You will be far better positioned to tell us as to how to make AI more ethical. If tomorrow there's a war, what happens? Today, every big country has robo weapons. All of them. Drones which can go out, seek a particular demographic and kill. And someone needs to come in, and they're all made by these young hotshots, 25-year-olds sitting in Silicon Valley or people sitting in China. So again, a massive topic. I'm going to be spending 2 years on this, so I cannot explain this in 2 minutes. But these are some of the implications which will come. Sorry, can you make it full screen? Sorry, is there something? Slideshow. So anyway, this is a bit of a cartoon there, and I can take questions on AI ethics. What is the time now? It's almost 5. My last section was about how to use it. I don't know if you have the time. Okay. Okay, fine. And look, again, my apologies. I'm trying to cover too many things. Okay, as I said, it's a random walk. Okay. And before I get into the uses, my objective today is not to make you scholars in this. I'm not one, but it's just to tell you about stuff which is happening, and hopefully some of these will excite you enough to see how you can start using them in your business. And that's where we are right now. Okay. Not a healthcare expert, just because I know the technology part a little bit, and I know your industry 0.01%, try to figure out some broad use cases. So lots of them. As I said, artificial intelligence everywhere. If you ask me how to do this, I will not be able to tell you standing on this stage right now. But pre-screening, intake, triage, leading hospitals in the world, perhaps you also are, I don't know, but leading on. Fantastic, okay. Drug discovery. I actually have kind of dwelt a little into this, and it's an amazing use case of actually both AI and blockchain. The 7 years, 9 years, 11 years that it takes, for FDA approvals for drugs means that thousands of people die. And there are ways where these technologies can be used to shorten this safely. Okay, rather than, and so it's a massive area. There are lots of companies in the Boston area, in Cambridge, which are actually working on this. Medical imaging diagnosis, I mean, you know this far better than I do, and we're kind of using this in multiple ways. IBM's Watson tried doing this for a while, didn't work very well, but now newer companies are coming in, and you can. I mean, if there was a way to reference 20 million similar images in your head, which you can't do, to decide whether this tumor is what it is, potentially AI can do that. Okay, and so that kind of imaging. Personalization, drug personalization, care personalization based on data, predictive analytics of all kinds, AI, DNA, AI, molecular biology. A lot of the whole vaccine miracle, and I call it a miracle, which happened because of fundamental research which started in 1960s or 70s. Cambridge, I had the pleasure to hear Kariko, the lady, Hungarian lady who actually mRNA, and AI. The genome was out in about 2 days from China after it had been sequenced, and it took like a few hours to sequence it. But then what did you do with the genome, and how do you compare this genome to hundreds of millions other genomes which are there, and then see that what has worked on them and what has not worked on them? This massive crunching and insight from data is an AI application or a business case. Pandemic spread modeling. We had millions of pandemic experts suddenly emerge, okay, during the COVID pandemic, and they were doing this spread modeling, and that also is important, reasons virtual nursing assistants. NHS really requires that, okay, because there are many parts of the world where we don't have nurses, okay, and how do you kind of have bots? Japan is doing that quite a lot. Japan has care bots, it has care robots, because they don't have people. And how do you kind of, again, use AI to create these dementia detection aid with robots? You could have all kinds of health records or medical records electronically, but that's so much information. Now, what do you do with that information? AI can come in on as layers on top of them. And this can get done through a general purpose company like a IBM or Findability or Microsoft or whatever, but there are also very large number of specialist companies which are kind of working on this. Blockchain, a little further away, but again, multiple healthcare use cases coming up. Authentication, non-counterfeiting is a big one. And counterfeit medicines and how big a problem it is. Blockchain is a great technology to use to kind of detect within that. Supply chain transparencies, insurance settlements, a big pain. Whenever, unfortunately, I or a family member would get admitted in a large hospital, a large part of the time goes in actually figuring out the insurance bit. Okay, large part, and then getting the settlements done. Blockchains have something called smart contracts. So if something happens, something gets actuated. If this, then that. And so if the doctor would write the discharge report electronically, automatically the settlement would go. And there are things which blockchains can do to insurance settlements. Data security, vaccination records, trial tracking. I said that drug discovery. The thing about blockchains is that they're associated with a currency. We didn't have time to get into crypto today. And I know if I'd mentioned Bitcoin, everyone would have only started asking, should I buy, should I not buy, should I sell, should I not sell? Okay, should I buy Dogecoin, should I buy Flox coin, whatever. Okay, my simple thing is don't. Okay, but anyway, moving from there. But the great use of these currencies is that there's something called a Denta coin, by the way. Okay, which is about dental, which has been created amongst a group of dental practitioners. And the incentive systems in that to make sure that the person brushes twice a day and comes for the 6 monthly checkups or whatever is run through an associated coin on the blockchain records, which is called a Denta coin. And you can do various things with it. Again, just maybe a little way out, not necessarily something I would ask you to create tomorrow, but there are serious and some fun applications which these technologies have. Web3, Metaverse, NFT still very, very early, very early. It's going to happen, but we are still figuring out life. The one big thing, obviously, as we go forward is how, in some sense, robotic surgery moves into a virtual environment. Okay, and how telemedicine, which got a big boost during COVID, actually becomes far more personalized, far more immersive. I think this is the closest use case of the metaverse, etc. There are metaverses out there. There's something called Decentralized. There's something called Odyssey. There's something called sure. I agree. I mean, I didn't think of that, but yeah. And frankly, that's what So I mean, today we didn't have much time, but the thing to learn, the thing to do in these things is you get excited by technology, learn a little bit more about it, and then you start connecting the dots in your head with your profession or your business in that sense. The DAO thing, for example, a digital autonomous hospital, okay, which is again too lesser time to go, but I think something which will happen, okay, as we go forward, and it's going to be far more efficient and far more personal and peer-to-peer than us. There's work happening in terms of creating what are called digital twins of a patient. Okay, so there's a patient which is a human being, and you create what is called a digital twin. Digital twins so far were used in manufacturing. You had a plant, and then you created a digital twin of the plant, and you did experiments in that before you put it in the main plant. And actually, there are startups out there which are saying we'll create the patient's digital twin, the same DNA, the same physiological, or the same physiological indicators, etc., etc. And you do stuff there to see how the patient would react. Digital, so it's kind of a digital avatar of the patient before you kind of move to the actual patient. So there are many, many use cases which I could think of, and many more which I'm sure you will and can if we kind of go more into it. But the way I so far use these technologies, and I'm kind of last couple of slides, I'll skip a few, is that, you see, the thing which is happening. So work with a lot of partners. As I said, findability. There's a partner I work with whose name is behind talking Mr. Jasprit Bindra. It's called ThoughtWorks. Okay, ThoughtWorks is a NASDAQ listed firm, an amazing software development company. But basically, what is this slide is from them. I'm sure Sangeeta would have heard it in hundreds of consultants coming and telling her, or when she goes for presentations, or when you go for seminars or FICCI or this or that, that look, every company to thrive, to succeed in the coming world, in the next 10 years, 20 years, needs to become a technology company. Now, this is not an empty word. If you kind of look at the top 10 companies of the world today, all of them are tech companies, though they might not only be doing tech. So while Microsoft is doing only tech products in that sense, but if you think of Amazon, for example, Amazon is not a retail company doing tech. It is a tech company doing retail. Or Uber is a tech company doing transportation. Closer home, a Swiggy or a Zomato are not food delivery companies who do technology. They are technology companies doing food delivery. Airbnb is a technology company doing hospitality, not a hospitality company. So their culture is very tech. They think of solving problems through technology. Most of the people there are actually technology people. And if I was to kind of bring this to healthcare, technology is not only AI and blockchain or whatever. All of you are actually, work with a whole host of medical technologies. And so if you kind of start thinking of yourself, and I'm not saying this because I'm sitting in front of you, but being a citizen of this country and reading newspapers and the web, I know that Apollo is quite far ahead, much further ahead than many healthcare firms in terms of experimenting with new technology, doing new stuff. But the mindset shift of saying that, look, am I a hospital or a healthcare company doing technology versus a technology company doing healthcare is a colossal shift. And that is what is one way technology is digital transformation. How do you transform? And therefore, how do you become, as ThoughtWorks calls it, tech at core? The business wraps around the tech rather than the tech wrapping around the business. So you stop thinking of technology as a cost center, but actually start thinking of it as actually your core. Like the hospital is your core, or a factory is core for a car manufacturing firm. And those are the companies. And there are, like, if you think of Visa in payments, it's not your industry, but if you think of Visa stopped being a payment company many years back. They are actually a tech company which does payments. So they're an actual legacy large company. They get tech valuations in the market rewards them. And there are a few such examples in multiple industries. I'm not yet sure if I know something in healthcare at this scale. There are many small guys, but that's what you do with these technologies. How do you transform, as a professor at MIT says, from a caterpillar to a butterfly? And the reason I put this slide is because he also says that, look, when it's done right, the caterpillar turns into a butterfly. But when done wrong, all you get is a really fast caterpillar. Okay, and so you look, fast caterpillars are not bad. Okay, they will leave other caterpillars behind. Okay, but butterflies are better. And so, and in many ways, we don't have time today, that's what is the difference between digitization and digital transformation. Digitization is making fast caterpillars. How you make your processes better, how you make your payments better, But transformation is how you make into a butterfly, and I'm in the butterfly business. Okay, so that's what we do. So I'm not going to, and these are different models. I mean, this is part of my book. I'm not going to go through this, but just for fun's sake, my digital transformation model, which people seem to like, is based on the Hindu Holy Trinity, actually. There's Brahma, which is business models, because Brahma creates worlds, business models create new businesses. I was briefly explaining to Sangeeta about how in Mahindra, we started an Uber for tractors. It's a different business model. Or how instead of selling mattresses, a company will sell sleep and charge for rupees per hour of sleep rather than selling 15,000 rupees mattress. Create business models is one way. Customer journeys, and you have huge scope here. We don't have time. But the most important part, and I will end with that, in this trinity of mine, is the destroyer, which is Shiva. Because whatever we do with technology, whatever we do with business model, Shiva the destroyer is actually culture, people, the most powerful god according to large number of Hindus. And a lot of times you need to work on the organization culture. Last video of the day, and this video is just 30 seconds. It's by a guy called Joy Ito. Yeah, just before, I'll just tell you, okay? It's by a guy called Joy Ito, who was the CEO of MIT Media Labs, an amazing organization. And why am I showing you this video? All of you are amazing healthcare professionals, doctors. You have so many things to do. You have so many commitments. You forget about quarterly targets, which ordinarily business people have. You have lives to save. You're sitting here while there's so many things happening outside which need your desperate attention. That's what our lives have become. And you know, this is going to end, this talk. And after this, as you walk out of this room, you're going to say, "Ha, Jaspreet, yeah, he talked about some fun things, showed some videos, cartoons. Okay, nice stuff. Acha tha. Okay, but abhi wo time hai. It's going to take some while. Meanwhile, let me go and fill up my whatever report that I need to fill in, okay, or go on my rounds or whatever you do." This little video, it's a part of a famous 15-minute TED talk. I'm not going to show you the talk. It's 30 seconds. It's for that sentiment and those people. Can we play that, please?
So I think the good news is that even though the world is extremely complex, what you need to do is very simple. I think it's about stopping this notion that you need to plan everything, you need to stock everything, and you need to be so prepared, and focus on being connected, always learning, fully aware, and super present. So I don't like the word futurist. I think we should be nowists. Like we are right now. Thank you.
Be a nowist.
So I think the good news is that even though
you cannot do, but maybe if you start learning a little bit and you know, be present, just learn, just experience, mint NFTs, listen to your children when they want to buy these t-shirts for their avatars and see what they're actually doing. And soon you'll learn, you'll understand, and you'll know what to do with your business. Thank you very much. I'm a curious mix. I've been a practitioner. I'm now a little bit of an academician. I am a writer, soon to be a philosopher. So this was a mix of all of that, as well as all the technologies. I hope you gained something out of it. Thank you very much. Can I have some water? If any one of you has questions or comments or tell me, sir.
It's excellent talk.
Thank you.
Decision-making in many fields, especially in healthcare. I would like to bring about what about human and emotion aspects and how it's going to affect these things.
It's a lovely question. Thank you for asking that. Okay. You know, a lot of people, you know, when AI is a massive topic, as I told you, and you can talk about so many things. When I'm talking about AI specifically, first question people ask, I think someone said here also, will AI take my job? Okay. It will take many jobs. There's a guy called Kai-Fu Lee, who is called the Bill Gates of China. I mean, he's a big guy there. I sometimes show his TED video, like I showed this one, which actually he's framed it beautifully as to what are the kind of jobs which will get taken by AI, which will never get taken. But importantly, there'll be two kinds of jobs where, so one kind will be where AI will augment the human being. Other kind where a human being will augment AI. And he puts this in a 2x2 matrix. And I'm coming to you. And basically, one part of the matrix is, machine versus human. I mean, there are certain jobs which are more machine-like, certain human-like. But the other part of the matrix is actually compassion. Okay, and there are so many jobs which actually require compassion, which at least in the foreseeable future, we have no technology today, which will make an AI compassionate. And so the jobs of the future, especially in this aging world, especially with global warming around the corner, actually there's going to be much more need of compassion-based jobs, whether it be nursing, whether it be old care, care for old people, whether it be counseling, okay, or different kinds. Mental health, absolutely, the counseling and mental health. And that's exponentially increasing. We don't realize it in India, but globally and those are the new jobs which are coming up because of this, and the AI will not be able to. So while we are still grappling with ethics in AI, some experiments have started with emotion in AI, but it's still at an extremely experimental stage. We don't know it'll ever happen, and probably it'll never happen. But even in those, there are certain things where AI will help us. And so old person care, for example, okay, while the human being will do the compassion part, the robot can actually help take this old woman to the bathroom, which doesn't really require compassion. It requires just that physical support. Okay, and again, I would urge you to type Kai-Fu Lee TED Talk. Okay, and the book is much bigger and nicer, but the TED Talk is 18 minutes. So see it, and you'll see in a better way, some of the things that I have said. Yes, sir.
I think that was an excellent talk. I was totally ignorant of whatever you said. And I came for the reason, especially requested to come and attend the session.
Thank you.
I wasn't sure to come or stay away. I told my secretary I'll be back in 10 minutes. But I think I don't mind extending more.
Thank you.
See, in India, what happens is they make problem in medical. There is so much of material, so much of clinical material, so much of data. We are unable to publish, analyze, come to reasonable conclusions. What way is AI help? And is there any way we can, because volumes, so much volumes and so much variety of data is there. If everything comes into one platform, big data, because in Cambridge or Oxford, they'll have 20 cases, they'll have 20 papers. We have thousands of cases, but not published anything meaningful.
I'll give you a general answer to this, because, but it's a huge problem to be solved. In fact, I think that having this one single massive data platform to help solve your issue is the wrong thing, wrong way to think about it. When there's a precedent, if you, I mentioned Watson, IBM's Watson. IBM created Watson, created lots of song and dance about it, then realized they need to make some money out of it. And they chose actually healthcare as their main, and they were with Sloan and few hospitals. And their whole deal was doing imaging AI and a lot of what you're saying. A lot of cancer, massive amounts of cancer. In fact, focused on cancer. Possibly, and I understand. I'm a huge fan of Siddharth Mukherjee, so I get what you're saying. I don't know if they would have worked. It would have worked in other places. It might or it might not. But this one size fits all approach is not going to work. At least I don't think so, not for a long time. So if I was you, okay, I would look at your specialty in Apollo hospitals. Okay, I would narrow it down to that and then work with a company, okay, a AI provider in some way, and create a customized solution. And this is not only healthcare, frankly, okay, in industry after industry after industry, these big, massive plugins don't work. We are not, it's the technology is not mature enough. It ignores domain knowledge. It says that it reduces the domain knowledge to the lowest common multiple, and it doesn't work. And then I would do it for one domain. In your thing, it would take 9 months, 12 months to create, and you'll keep on improving it as it goes. And then you would take it to the next domain, and it'll take half the time. Okay, and then you'll take it to the next domain, and it'll take half the time. That's the only way to do it. It's possible to do, but there's no, at least I don't think there's anything off the shelf which will make it happen. Nothing. And all these things which I said, NLP comes in this, machine learning comes in this, but it has to be kind of configured for your problem. Anyone else?
Just say thank you then.
Thank you very much.
Give him a big hand.
Thank you.
So I'm doing a slightly formal vote of thanks because I think the most precious thing you can give anyone is the power of knowledge. And what you have given is not just the knowledge, but the knowledge to decipher the future. And so I just want to say thank you on behalf of all of us at Apollo. Many of our teams know that we're working quite a bit on unification of our data, on the cup analogy that you gave. You know, work that's happening out of 24/7, which will be our AI-enabled presentation layer to help doctors as well as our patients. You know, Chairman's deepest thought, which came from his ability to be in the moment, is that we must transform into a healthcare company. And that's why his focus on wellness and pro-health. So many of these thoughts are embedded, and embedded not because, you know, we are great technology experts, but because we have a passion for our patients, and we have a passion to continue to do what's right for the world through healthcare. And so any tool we can use, whether it's AI or blockchain, we will find a way to use it to bring better health to our patients. So thank you, Jaspreet. I think this is just the beginning of multiple engagements that we're going to request you on. I request all of you for the moment now, please make sure that your records are good so that we have the data to create the AI. So please capture and capture digitally. Let's begin with that and do a lot more. Thank you for being here. I know how busy all of you are, and all of you are connected online. Feel free to continue to ask questions and stay connected about what more we can do, specialty by specialty. We have some exciting plans, and all of you are at the center of those exciting plans. So thank you all. And Jaspreet, truly a pleasure. I know I kind of, quickly took into your time. He's come to, teach at ISB, and it's been truly generous of you to share all this. You kind of demystified so many crazy terminologies and brought them into real life for us. So thank you, Jaspreet. Great pleasure. And thank you all for all the great work that you do, and in advance for all the wonderful things we're going to do together. Thank you.